Why I fired my coach? Well, first off, I hired them for results, not for hype, not for motivation, not for some mystical reason. I hired them for real results. And I spent a ton of money, thousands of dollars, and also a pile of time working with them to try to achieve. And in the end, I still had to fire them because I just didn't have the skills it took to move me from where I was to build what I wanted to build, which was a whole different business. I wanted to move away from working for a living, away from sport coaching, into working with, entrepreneurs, CEOs, business coaching, and they just couldn't do it. So I had to fire them. And this was scary for me because, I had a hard realization, I guess, that coaches now are really rated on visibility, how visible they are in their advertisements, their social media and all that stuff, rather than how effective they are. And that, to me, was a scary prospect because I found as I was starting to look around that coaches are missing 3 vital traits that I think are so important to, really become a great coach. And I know the first thing you're asking me is, why does a coach need a coach? Well, it's because when you're coaching yourself, sometimes you're just too close to the problem, right? It's like you can't see the forest for the trees. You can't be objective. You're completely subjective. So having an extra pair of eyes, ears, and hands really can help you, kind of get done what you need to do without a lot of problems, falling into pitfalls, traps that you may or may not have. So I think if you're taking on a big challenge, doesn't matter whether you're a coach or not a coach, whatever you are, you should work with a coach so that you can achieve in the fastest, easiest possible time. Now, the coach I hired was credentialed. They were awesome communicator, one of the best communicators I've ever worked with. And they looked the part, they talked the talk, but they didn't walk the walk. That's the problem, right? And it took a while to realize that they hadn't walked the walk. They were missing the 3 biggest traits. And as I go through these traits with you, stick around for number 3 because to me, it's the most critical one of all of them. Now, the first trait is flexibility, right? They may have got trained in a modality of training, a methodology of coaching, but they need to be flexible in not sticking to that if it's not getting the win, right? This is where sport coaches, for the most part, are much better because we understand that it's the win that matters, not how I'm getting there, right? I may have my method, my plays, but if they're not working, we got to change and do something completely different. So you got to learn to be a lot more flexible, really make it work with you, not against you, all right? They also need to know the difference between mentoring and coaching. Mentoring is where you lead somebody step by step by step in your way of doing it. Okay, so like if they're baking a cake, learning to bake a cake, a mentor would walk you through every step, showing you the way. Then you'd bake a cake on your own and they'd be there with you to make sure that you didn't vary off that way. That's what mentoring is. Coaching is different. Coaching helps somebody discover where they want to go, build a plan on how to get there, and then help them be accountable and miss the pitfalls, the mistakes, the hurdles along the way. Okay, so coaching versus mentoring, they need to know. The second big thing is they need to understand that they need to be adaptable. Now, adaptable to me is different than flexibility. Adaptable means that they have a rich background in achievement. Makes them adaptable. They've done this in multi areas of their lives, not just in business, not just in education, not just in health, but they've been an achiever in all areas of their lives, and not just little achievements. Not just making it from high school to go to university to go on to build your little business, to build a business. They need to be taking on challenges that really push their boundaries of what they're capable of doing. In my own life, I've taken on some massive challenges that I didn't know how I was going to do it. Build the boat was one, where I built an ocean-going boat. Doing an Ironman triathlon for the first time. Running your first marathon when you've never run before. All these big challenges. Starting a business after working for an entire career of high-level working, to go out and drop it all, go build a business, burn your bridges, burn the ships so you got no escape plan, right? Those kinds of things is what I mean by being adaptable, rich in their background. And that gives them a wide life experience to draw on, right? And the more life experience they have, the better they can help you achieve. And that is, to me, is critical. But the most important one is they have to continually do this. They have to have continual growth. You can't just get to a point and then think, okay, I'm good there. I'm just going to grow this one area of my life. That's not it. You got to continue to grow in all areas of your life, right? You have the choice of being Clark Kent part of the time and Superman part of the time, or be Superman all the time, right? They need to be Superman all the time. They need to be achieving everywhere all the time, constantly growing and constantly pushing their boundaries harder, to become a great coach, right? So to me, that one is the number one thing. Somebody that's showing that they can continually achieve, is going to help me, because now I know they're already doing that. They'll understand when I hit hard patches, when my energy is drained and I still need to get up and make it happen each day, right? So that is the biggest key. Now, what's the best way for you not to fall into this trap? Well, test drive your coaches, right? That's what I should have done, but it wasn't available to me. But I've built that for you. You can test drive my coaching. You can download my Quick Start program, my Stone Age Success Quick Start program, which gets you into my school community where I have coaching calls. I work with you through the text program. We find your goals. We work with you on accountability, build the systems you need, all for free. Test drive it for free. Then if you decide you want to take on a giant challenge and you want to work with me more closely, you have that option as well. But definitely download the Quick Start program, get in the school community. Let's start helping you achieve the things that you want to achieve. And finally, make sure you check out my video, which is Stop Starting Over, Build Something That Lasts. Okay, it's going to give you put your head in a good space to go forward and do that, right? So please make sure that happens. Anyway, this is Andy from Stone Age Success. Catch you next time.